We have some massive news to discuss today as a report has revealed that the Toronto Maple Leafs are targeting two key defensemen ahead of next season. So I'm going to break down exactly what that report entails and discuss how one of the players the Leafs are linked to might surprise you. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we do, if you're a part of the 80% who are not subscribed to the channel, you're going to want to make sure to hit that subscribe button as we're producing daily Leafs content. And quite frankly, there's tons of news, so this is the place to be for that. There is a lot to go over today. We've been discussing the Mitch Marner saga. We've been discussing how the coaching staff is all changing. And one thing that we definitely need to discuss, and we're going to be discussing today, is who the Leafs are going to look to acquire to shore up that blue line, because reports came out yesterday, especially earlier in the offseason, about Brad Treliving's willingness and his desire to upgrade the blue line. And then a report came out yesterday that a couple of key Leafs players that they're targeting might actually make fans happy. So you can see this here from David Pagnotta. Circling back to Pesce, he will be a player both Nashville and Toronto pursue if he's available July 1st. Clearly, there will be other potential suitors as well, but the Predators and the Maple Leafs will go after him if they can. Remember, Nashville tried to trade for him last summer, and Pesce is a very, very interesting player, and one that, Darius, we haven't discussed on this channel before. The other guy that the Leafs are linked to, we have, and the Leafs targeted him last trade deadline. But you can see Brett Pesce here, 13 points, 70 games, a right-handed shot defenseman, pretty solid defensively. He's not going to light up the score sheet or the point sheet at all, but 29 years old, this guy can make a ton of sense for the Leafs.
Tons of sense for the Leafs. This is the guy. I mean, we haven't talked about it on the channel, but he's been linked to the Leafs in terms of free agency for a long time. This is a guy that the Leafs need. This is exactly the type of guy that the Leafs need. We talked about it. They need more right shot defensemen. He's a defensive defenseman, like really defensively sound. He's not even 30 yet. Like, yes, he's going to be 30, but he's still relatively young. So if the Leafs can throw a bunch of money at a player like this, I think that they do it. Obviously not a bunch of money, but you know what I mean. But I think this is a player that they absolutely should target. I think he could be a really good partner for Morgan Rielly, for example, and finally get your first pairing there and obviously work your way through the lineup. I think that it would make tons of sense for the Leafs because, if you look at his stats in terms of points, he's not going to really put up more points for you in the season, but he is super defensively sound. He plays quite a bit. He plays north of 20 minutes a night for the Carolina Hurricanes this past season. And again, like I said, he's a guy that the Leafs should absolutely target. This should be like your number one priority behind Max Domi, Tyler Bertuzzi, and of course the Mitch Marner situation.
Yeah, and again, you can reread this article this quote, from David Pagnotta. Two teams are going to be pursuing him, one being Nashville, one being Toronto. And there's also going to be tons of other teams. I mean, he's a guy who would fit into any contender's blue line, and especially the Toronto Maple Leafs, where they need a right-handed shot defenseman. They want to change things up. They did bring in last offseason a puck-moving defenseman in John Klingberg. And, the psychology behind bringing that move made tons of sense. It just ultimately didn't work out. But with Pesce now, that could be a guy that, again, I don't think Pesce is the only move they're going to need to make to the blue line to bring them over the top. You're losing Lyubushkin. You're losing Joel Edmondson. You obviously have some guys, Morgan Rielly, Simon Benoit, that could help and will help next season when they can play a full, healthy, hopefully, season with the team. But I'm a big fan of Brett Pesce, and I think, quite frankly, Darius, you said it and you hit the nail on the head there. He is the guy that if you're looking for a defenseman, obviously you're still going to bring in back Max Domi, hopefully, Tyler Bertuzzi, all these guys. Pesce is the one that makes the most sense for the Toronto Maple Leafs from the blue line perspective. But another report came out targeting another key player, and I'm going to read the quote out here. Carolina is already evaluating, and it also mentions some things, as you'll see in a second, about Brett Pesce, but Carolina is already evaluating its options in the event that they cannot get one or both of Pesce signed to new deals. One defenseman on the radar is Shawn Walker. Now, this guy we've discussed multiple times, Darius, especially at the trade deadline last year, but Walker is unlikely to return to Colorado after the Avalanche acquired him from the Flyers 2 days before the deadline. He's 29, will draw plenty of interest, and the Leafs being one of those teams, and they are expected to pursue him heavily. So, Shawn Walker, a guy we obviously discussed last trade deadline, very interesting player. He played for the Avalanche. He did pretty decent. He wasn't great for the Avalanche. He's not looking to return to that team. The Avalanche aren't necessarily looking to bring him back. Do you like a Shawn Walker potential? Not reunion. It seemed like a reunion because we talked about him so much. Yeah, a return to the Toronto Maple Leafs, or coming to the Toronto Maple Leafs, sorry, even though now, instead of giving up assets to get him, you would be just giving up cap space.
Yeah, I think this is another guy that you should be targeting if you're the Leafs this summer. If not getting both, at least one of them. And I think Shawn Walker fixes a lot of the problems as well in terms of puck moving. He's a really good puck moving defenseman. Like you said, he wasn't a superstar in Colorado or anything like that, but he helped them design their blue line when they desperately needed to heading into this playoffs, and they found some success. They looked like the Colorado Avalanche of old when they won the Stanley Cup. So he's another really great player. And like I mentioned too, the Leafs need right shot defensemen. Handedness matters in the playoffs, and this is another puck moving defenseman who's right shot. He's relatively young. He's 29 years old, same age as Brett Pesce. So I think this would be a very good move for the Leafs again. It's just a matter of how much money do these guys want. I think Pesce is actually going to command a lot of money this offseason, no matter where he goes. Same with Shawn Walker. He's going to get paid quite a bit because he really showed his worth in this season, even with the Flyers. The Flyers were really good this year compared to where people thought they were going to finish. So he's a hot commodity as well. So it just depends how much they both want. But both of these guys would really help reconstruct your blue line, which is exactly what the Leafs need to do.
Yeah, and it's at a point now where if the Leafs don't reconstruct their blue line, it's going to be very hard for them to make a push for the playoffs. Obviously, the Mitch Marner stuff aside, like we've seen it the past few years, the Leafs blue line is good, but it hasn't been good enough for them to really compete. And we saw the acquisitions. I think Edmondson's a guy we'll have another video on. Like he's interested in returning. Hopefully, I'd assume there's mutual interest there, according to some reports. He makes sense as well, but right-handed shot defensemen are what the Leafs are after. And again, this is from David Painata. I recommend going to check out the article because the Predators are also targeting Brett Pesce. And there's some other things here too. Nikolai Ehlers is available. Maybe the Leafs go and look at a guy like that, which we'll have a video on again in the future. And you can see some fan reactions to the Brett Pesce thing. He says, I'm personally over pairing Riley with one-dimensional defenseman. One player I'd like to see would be Shawn Walker. He has the ability to play in all situations against top competition. And can really move the puck. And again, he's a puck-moving defenseman, Shawn Walker, that is. Like, he makes so much sense for the team. It's just a matter of if the Leafs will be able to match the price that other teams are going to also look to be giving him. And also, does Shawn Walker want to come to the Toronto Maple Leafs? And I'd assume Shawn Walker wants to join a contender. And as much as us Leafs fans have been pessimistic about the future outlook of the team, the Leafs are seen as a contender by most of these free agents. They've made the playoffs so many years in a row. Even though they haven't seen success there, maybe Shawn Walker could say, hey, the blue line hasn't been great. I want to play with alongside Morgan Riley. I want to play with this team and grow with them because Shawn Walker's not super old either. Same with Brett Pesce, would make the same kind of sense in his way. I think they could look to join the Toronto Maple Leafs and put them over the top because the defense, obviously the Marner talks have been what took over the entire offseason so far. The blue line, just a few weeks ago or a month, whenever they got eliminated from the playoffs, was one of the biggest talking points was about how they played okay in the playoffs and defense was, that's why the coaching is returning Mike Van Ryn. But they need to upgrade that if they want to be a cup contender, and there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, good isn't good enough, right? For the Maple Leafs, you need to get yourself into contender status. And like you said, it is true. Some of these free agents look at the Leafs, even though people laugh about it, and look at them as a contender because they are. They make the playoffs, 8 years in a row to this point. They probably will next year, despite all the drama that's going on. But yes, they do need to upgrade the blue line. It's just the fact of the matter. The personnel that they had last year did a pretty good job for, who was there, but they do need to upgrade. And these are two pieces that would really make a world of difference on the Leafs blue line. So I don't know who I prefer. I think I'd rather go with Pesce just because he's more defensively minded and you can really pair him there with Riley. That would be really nice, but you need puck moving defensemen as well. So these are two guys that the Leafs should definitely target. And who knows, they might be open to come to the Leafs and they've been linked. So we'll see what happens here this summer.
Yeah, let us know in the comments which of these two guys, Shawn Walker or Brett Pesce, would you rather see in a Toronto Maple Leafs uniform, or you can answer both because really that would be the ideal situation. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on all this. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and we'll see you soon.